Welcome to the Comic Sauce Podcast, where we talk comics and comics culture. I am Henry Liu, and today I'm joined by Christian Diadamo. Christian, how's it going?
Hey, it goes well.
Excellent. I'm also joined by Porfirio Rangel. Porfirio, how it goes?
Hey Henry, it's all good.
Awesome. Today is Friday, or not Friday, it's Thursday, July 17th, 2025. And we're going to talk all about the new Superman movie, which the three of us just saw all together not long ago. And to moderate the conversation, Christian, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Henry. All right, so we're talking about the new Superman movie, directed by James Gunn and starring David Corenswet. The big new kickoff to the DCU, the new DC Cinematic Universe. So we've got a lot to talk about. Before we get into the movie, let me ask you guys a little about Superman. Superman is the oldest superhero, the old the origin of the su- superheroes, the superhero name. He is extremely influential as a character. Everybody knows Superman. So let's see. But you guys are definitely more Marvel guys, especially growing up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would like to ask you guys, what is your relationship to Superman? What especially like growing up, did you watch the older movies, maybe read some comic books or seen one of the shows? Um, why don't you start, Henry? What is your relationship to Superman?
My relationship to Superman. Yeah, I was exposed to Superman a lot when I was younger. And I think I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast, but yes, I did grow up with Marvel, but that was more like later years. I was like high school. My early years, my young child years, I was definitely more a DC guy. And I watched DC cartoons, notably the Superpowers series. And I watched the very first Superman movie, Superman the movie, which I loved. So Superpowers and Superman the movie, and I bought a lot of the Superpowers toys too. So yeah, one of my fondest early Superman memories is playing with the Superman Superpowers toy, where I would squeeze the legs and he would like punch with both arms. And it was like a pretty well made toy. He had like a cloth cape and everything. So yeah, a lot of fond childhood memories with Superman for sure.
Hey, that's awesome. You to go way back.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Porfirio?
I mean, my relationship with Superman is like non-existent. I remember watching the Superman animated series from WB Kids on TV, but I did not care for it. I thought, Superman was just like, no matter what he does, he's gonna get it done. I felt like there was like no point in watching him because he's just gonna always come out on top. There was no struggle. And then, in my teens and young adult life, I was very anti-DC. So again, very non-existent to um, Superman. And it wasn't until like very recent. I feel like I read my first Superman comic when I asked you to recommend something, and so I read Superman All Star, and so that was my very first Superman comic I've ever read.
Hey, nice. All right. So we got, someone who loves Superman, like growing up, and someone who's very new to it. So we got a bunch of different perspectives. Me, like, I've always been a Superman fan. Let's see. Um, I did watch the old Superman cartoon back in the 90s, Superman the animated series. And of course, being such a big Batman fan, DC guy, Superman is a big part of that. Superman and Batman are known they cross over, they're friends, they're the world's finest. Of course, also a big fan of Justice League, the cartoon, not the Joss Whedon movie. And so I've seen most of the Superman movies as well growing up. And so going in, I was pretty excited. Were you guys looking forward to this movie? Were you guys excited to see this new take on Superman by James
You
Gunn?
You know, I did just say my relationship with Superman was non-existent, and I think that's why I was just super excited for this movie. I will say it right now, I'm more excited for Superman than I am for Fantastic Four, you know. And as I said earlier, I was very anti-DC and so Marvel, so I feel like that's a lot saying for me. So I was just so excited to just see the start of a whole universe. I feel like the DC extended universe was done dirty, and so I just really want DC to strive. I want everyone to be happy. So I was really excited for how James Gunn was going to turn out this Superman movie.
Hey, all right, all right. How about you, Henry? Were you excited going into the Superman?
Yeah, I was definitely excited to see this movie. Um, First off, it's like the big kickoff of the DCU, right? So there was a huge curiosity factor of how's this gonna go and what's it gonna feel like, and of course the MCU comparisons and all that. But in addition to that, I'm a big James Gunn fan too. So just seeing a new James Gunn superhero movie, Superman or not, I'm in, like I really love the Guardians trilogy that he did. The Suicide Squad movie he did was great. Peacemaker's awesome. So, just James Gunn alone, like I was excited for that fact.
All right. Yeah, we saw this pretty much opening night, Friday night, last Friday,
Hmm.
to a very packed theater.
Yeah.
So, um, let's get into it. Let's get into this movie. So let's start with the titular character, Superman himself, David Corenswet. There's been a lot of different actors that have played Superman over the years, um, which have been, it's such a high profile character. So David Corenswet was stepping into some pretty big shoes, especially with the beloved Christopher Reeve. And um, while there was, you know, Henry Cavill's take was definitely much more controversial. It did really launch Cavill's career, and he has also become this very beloved actor nowadays. Um,
Hmm.
Even while Man of Steel, BVS, and the Snyderverse took some very questionable takes on the character. Uh, So, how did you guys feel about David Cornsweet as Superman? Why don't you start, Henry?
Sure. Yeah, I think David Corenswet was awesome in the role. He really embodied this character, and the likability factor was like high here. I couldn't help but root for this guy the whole movie. Yeah, he really sold the goodness of this character. And yeah, like above anything, this Superman is a good person. He's just a really good person. And it sounds kind of corny, but yeah, he is. And in a performance that could have been kind of cheesy, it doesn't come off that way. He's just a genuinely good person. And that's a big theme in the movie too, by the way. It's not just Superman good just for the sake of it, but it's sort of like this good person who's surrounded by a lot of terrible stuff in the world, right? Which I think a lot of us can relate to. But yeah, he's great. He's really great in this movie.
Hey, all right. What did you think, Porfirio? How did you feel about David Cornsweet?
I really enjoyed him. He really captured, like Henry said, what Superman stands for, of just trying to be a good person. He looks out for the small person, and you know, there's a scene where like Lois interviews Superman about like interfering with uh global affairs, and like she like hounds him about like, did anyone ask you to? Did you go through the proper channels? And he's just like, no, I just wanted to stop anyone from getting hurt. And it just shows that he just wants to be like, he wants to do things for being good, you know? And there's even, yeah, like a scene where he's trying to find and save Crypto, and he says like, oh yeah, Crypto's a bad dog, you know, but he's by himself, he's scared, so I'm gonna go out and look for him and find him. And so he just encompasses just being a good person, and he has like that great Superman charm, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized I forget. I always forget this. Is to give the spoiler warning because we're gonna get into spoilers. We haven't really
Mm.
talked about any spoilers yet or dropped anything, but I forgot to do it before we were gonna start talking. But yeah, spoilers. So I also really like David Corenswet. I thought this take on the character, they made Superman very charming. They injected him, I think, with a lot of charm and like charisma that I don't think we've seen in a while. And so he has all these like kind of little moments, and like they really want him to make they really want to make Superman really feel human. I think was a big push for this movie, and he just feels like a regular guy from Kansas, s- uh, stepping into the role of the superhero. I think the way he talks, the way that he's a very moral person, but he's also not perfect. Like the way you mentioned Porfirio in that thing with Lois Lane, they get into kind of what he did to the foreign leader of I'm actually forgetting the country off the top of my head, but how he just like grabs him and like puts him up against a cactus, and he kind of like in a way he kind of lets his just like personal anger kind of get a hold of him, even like in the interview when he's kind of being asked these hard questions because he just doesn't know what to say. But I thought that was like a nice dynamic to Superman. I thought like he was flawed, but he was a very good moral person, and he felt like Superman, and I thought he was a blast to watch.
Mm.
Um,
You know, Christian, there
yeah,
was, I don't know if this is negative or not, but I guess the only critique I had was David didn't seem like buff, you know, compared to like Henry, you know?
yeah,
Like, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because, you know, when you look at a Superman comic or a Superman image, he's like this biff, big, muscular, buffy dude. But David was, you know, you see like kind of like the photos of him like working out to get into that shape, but he's just not as buff as Henry Cavill, you know? And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because of him like maybe like representing like an everyday common folk of just wanting to embody doing the right thing. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
let's see. I think with Superman, like he is Kryptonian, and he does have an ungodly level of super strength. So of course, in comics, every man is drawn with like these massive six pack abs and biceps, and so with like this like ungodly physique. So of course, translating that to a movie, um, no one's ever gonna look as buff as they do in the comics. But I don't think it bothered me. I he was a bit slimmer, which it's like I was fine with. But that actually leads into another follow up question. Because something I noticed about this movie, I don't know if you guys think it's a positive or a negative, but it did feel like they debuffed Superman a bit in this movie. He wasn't as strong as you've seen him before, and Superman is kind of like the strongest superhero, but he does like he kind of gets his ass kicked a bit in this movie, and like he needs help from his dog, of course. And has a bit of a problem in the fights. And so, what do you guys think of that? Did you guys like this more kind of depowered Superman compared to say like some of the older versions?
Yeah, I definitely like that. I remember watching the Joss Whedon Justice League movie, and when Superman comes to beat Steppenwolf's ass at the end, it was like, I don't think we really need the Justice League here. Superman's enough, sort of thing, right? And that is sort of a microcosm of the Henry Cavill Superman. He's just like OP, right? He just can't be beat. And it was kind of annoying that he was so powerful. And yeah, it was cool to see this Superman get his ass beat. You mentioned uh, Christian, that this Superman kind of gets beat up. He gets beat up a lot in this movie, I think. I mean, the very first time you see him, he's beat up, and he gets his ass beat a whole lot throughout this movie, and I think it's a good thing. I think a good Superman story is one where Superman has to overcome some tough obstacles, and he certainly does that here.
Yeah, um, I did like it too. I think that um, everybody knows Superman is overpowered, and I think, especially if he starts overpowered, then you kind of think, well, how does he grow from there? And then, like, how do we scale everything?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then that leads to it kind of helps some of the other heroes, like, kind of that gives them the room to do their thing, you know. So what did you think? Did you like that Superman was underpowered, Porfirio? Quote unquote underpowered.
No, like it's so funny. Yeah, you say that because I remember, yeah, seeing a lot of fan reactions online saying like, yeah, Superman's weak in this. He he moves when he gets hit by a bullet. He bleeds. Um, he gets, yeah, like Henry said, he gets his ass kicked a lot. But I thought I enjoyed it because, like, I guess, yeah, like for me growing up, one big thing that I didn't care for Superman was he was like invincible. He always was able to power through the struggle and the fight and the battle. And this one just made it seem like, okay, how is he gonna overcome this? How is he gonna battle out of this? How is he um what's going to happen to him. So I feel like it just created a little bit of like suspense and like, oh shit, what's going to happen? What's not, you know? So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Which I think leads me into some of the other superheroes they had. So they bring in the Justice Gang, which features Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, and Hawk Girl. So already they're showing us the kind of beginnings of the Justice League. Um, with a start with kind of three, I would say definitely lesser known DC characters. Even though people know Green Lantern, Guy Gardner is not the most, is very much not the most well known Green Lantern.
Hmm.
And they're already established as a Justice Gang, and they're kind of, I think they're bankrolled by a company. I forget
Mhm.
which company off the top of my head. But what did you guys think of these characters, the Justice Gang?
Mr. Terrific's awesome. He was so funny, super dope. Um, Green Lantern, he was cool. He had some cool comedic moments. And Hawk Girl, they did her dirty. I'm sorry, they did my girl dirty. Like she what the fuck was with the screaming hawk noises? What the hell? Like, oh my gosh, I was so stupid. The only cool scene she got was dropping the the president, being like, "Oh, Superman wouldn't do it, but I would." Like that was the only cool scene. But seeing these characters, like you said, Christian, like it's so cool to already see like an established universe that we're just like we're not really doing like the origin stories here. We're just like doing two steps forward already, and let's dive into this DC cinematic universe. So it was pretty cool, to see these characters already have like some kind of established relationship with Superman.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Definitely agree. Hot Girl. I would have loved to see more Hot Girl. And yeah, the scream was a little annoying.
Just a
Oh,
quick take on my end. I did enjoy these characters. Yeah, I was thinking these characters were the most James Gunn-esque characters in the whole movie, right? Because, going in, I was thinking, well, Superman doesn't seem like a movie that James Gunn would be a good fit for so much, right? But as it turns out, the final product, I think this movie really is a James Gunn movie. It has his stamp all over it, and like I was alluding to, this group is like the ultimate James Gunn group of characters in the movie. They're very reminiscent of the Suicide Squad or the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're like a group of misfits, right? And they're very comedic. They're super funny, and they add a lot of entertainment to this movie.
yeah. And I'm glad, like, since he's already bringing in the Justice League here, with the Justice Gang. I keep doing air quotes, but no one can really see my air quotes. Um, like I'm glad that they brought in some of the lesser known characters that you could tell this is where James Gunn feels like at home with.
Yeah, totally.
Hmm.
And I'm glad he decided to go with that rather than going for Batman, Wonder Woman,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Flash, your Justice League mainstay characters. Um, as much as I love Batman, I'm really glad Batman did not appear anywhere in this movie. And, and I'm glad Green Lantern finally got some love after all these years. Fun fact, real quick about Green Lantern. Both Nathan Fillion and Ryan Reynolds have both played Deadpool and Green Lantern.
Is that right?
Wait, when did
Yeah,
Nathan play Deadpool?
he was in Deadpool and Wolverine. He was there was like a floating head Deadpool that's like a skull.
Oh,
That was
Oh.
Nathan Fillion.
that is a fun fact. Good
hmm
call.
Um so yeah. Um But I did really love this character, especially in Mr. Terrific. He was the breakout character, and like online, everyone I've talked to this movie say, like, "Oh, my favorite scene was the one with Mr. Terrific, with the bubble shield around Lois
Mm,
Lane, and
Hmm.
like the camera's like moving around,
Hmm.
and he's got his circles everywhere. Like he was the big breakout character, and I think hopefully we'll get some more of him. Hopefully, get more of all 3.
Hmm. That scene is very like how Henry was saying earlier, very James Gunn of just
hmm
being fun, great song, and just out there.
yeah.
hmm All right, so let's see. All right. So we've talked about the heroes quite a bit. I'd say let's move into the villains. Let's start with the big one, Lex Luthor, now played by Nicholas Holt. Another character that's been played so many times by so many different people. Um, what did you guys think of Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor in this movie? Uh,
Better than Jesse Eisenberg, I'll say that. But I don't know if that means a lot. The
yeah,
bar was
it's a
pretty
low
low.
bar.
I mean, I feel like he was like an Elon Musk influence kind of character. Like he was
Mm,
like this like tech billionaire that just throws a major tantrum when things don't go his way. Um, which at times it would just get annoying, like he would just be like, "No, we got to beat Superman. We got to fight Superman." And I feel like there wasn't really a real reason to go after Superman besides like, "Oh, we got to beat him." And I don't know. I was expecting more like, Christian, I said I haven't watched the Superman animated series, but I've watched a few clips, and I feel like that Lex Luthor kind of personality is a lot better than this movie. So, um, yeah, he was just annoying, I felt like.
Yeah. Okay. What did you think, Henry? How did you feel about Nicholas Holt?
Yeah, first off, I am a big Nicholas Holt fan. I have enjoyed a lot of his work throughout his career, but this one, yeah, this performance didn't really resonate a whole lot with me. I walked away feeling like this was more of a caricature than an actually like developed character. Um, yeah, it was very like kind of one dimensional. Like he would throw tantrums and he would do really evil things, and he was just a real a-hole throughout the movie. But that's, the extent of it really. And I know this movie isn't really the movie to have a villain with a lot of depth, but I mean, give me a little something, this character really didn't feel real in any way. So I would have loved to see a little bit more depth and nuance with Lex here.
Oh, okay. So I would actually say that I feel a little differently from you guys. I actually really dug Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor. Um, Although kind of for the same reasons that you guys didn't like it, I feel like that
Mm.
personally resonated with me. Um, because I thought like he was such a hater, but I kind of loved watching him be a hater. You know, like his like the funniest scene in the movie was when he reveals he has an army of monkeys in his pocket universe that just go online and write bad shit about Superman.
Yeah.
You see the hashtag super shit, and like he's definitely this guy like who like you just like he just like has this seething hatred of Superman, and like is so like he's just kind of upping everything to 11. I think like the part like when he has the gun and he's playing Russian roulette and actually kills the guy on the second shot just
Hmm.
because, and like this is just he like wants to kill, he wants to round up people to just kill them in front of Superman because they were nice, or he was nice to them, or vice versa, like they helped him.
Yeah.
Like he goes so far out of his way to hate on Superman. And in Nicholas Holt is just like his performance feels like he's always just at a 10, at an 11 with his hatred of it. And like part of me kind of wonders if cuz you brought up Elon Musk, you brought up the whole billionaire angle and how billionaires, I think right now almost feel like these supervillains in society today. And
Hmm.
part of me wonders if like do you think that's why they made him so one-dimensional? Was because they wanted to show this billionaire character as someone who's so unequivocally evil, and so petty and childish, you know, that he's like, I don't really care what happens to the world. I don't care that this rift is splitting through Metropolis based on something that I did. I just want to kill Superman and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. It's kind of a sign of the times. It's going with what's happening in the world, right? The other side of it, I think, is that James Gunn kind of likes having these kinds of villains in his movies, right? You look at characters like Ronan the Accuser or the High Evolutionary. They're kind of like this, right? They're just like pure evil, and there's not much depth to them, right? So I think that's just his thing.
That's a good point. Because yeah, it does remind me a lot of the High Evolutionary.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. As far as let's say, do you guys have any thoughts on the other villains? Let's see. We got Ultraman and the Engineer, who were kind of they were just kind of more of the people for Superman to fight. Like any thoughts on those, or not so much. They were just there for him to fight. Like, do you
They were
guys?
just there.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. They didn't really leave a big impression on me. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the Superman clone. I feel like maybe that didn't work all that well, but I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Yeah,
Mhm.
kind of like what Porfirio was saying. They were just kind of there. I mean, they lended themselves to some pretty cool action scenes, I'll say that. So that was cool. But as characters, yeah, not super compelling.
It's very typical, like good guy versus bad guy. Good guy's gonna overcome story.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Like, I think a fun bit about Ultraman is that Ultraman is in the comics. Ultraman is Superman from a different universe, a
Mm.
universe where Superman is evil. So I thought, oh, at the end when Ultraman kind of gets swallowed into a black hole, there's a part of me that thinks, oh, I
Oh,
wonder if that's where they're gonna go with the character, if he's gonna go
uh,
to another universe
Mm.
and be this
Mhm.
evil Superman.
Mhm. Mhm.
Although I'd
hmm,
almost say that Ultraman feels more like Bizarro.
hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
The way Bizarro's who's also a Superman from a different universe, but kind of is more in tune with Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
He's under the control of Lex Luthor, like in this movie. Let's see. As far as any characters, well, let's see. What did you guys also think of Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen? We didn't really see Perry White at all. But the Daily Planet cast and the Daily Planet Metropolis, the rest of the mainstays of the Superman world and lore. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? I guess particularly Rachel Brosnahan's take on Lois Lane.
I had some thoughts there. Yeah, I had mentioned how I grew up on the original Superman movie, Superman the movie, and in that film, the Daily Planet gang plays heavily. You know, they have a lot of screen time. Perry White, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, they are very prominent in that movie. This one, not so much. Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan, does get a lot of screen time. I will say that. But just overall, the Daily Planet scene is minimized, and Clark Kent himself is hardly in the film, right? We talked about this a bit after we watched it. So that whole angle, there isn't a lot to it. I kind of missed that. You know, like I said, I grew up on that movie, and I was like, hey, where are these guys? But James Gunn was telling a different story here, so I get that. But specifically with Lois Lane, so an interesting thing about this movie is, I'm sure we're going to talk about this more later, but is this movie kind of just throws you right into the middle of the story in a way. It's not an origin story. uh, Superman is already on Earth. He's already got the suit. And yes, Clark Kent is already dating Lois Lane in this movie, which that was a surprise to me. They're already together. So I felt like maybe there was a bit of a misstep here, just because at the end of the movie, there's a moment that could have been really iconic and special. And that's when Superman and Lois are floating up in the sky and they kiss, right? I'm sure a lot of people have seen this, like on the internet or in the trailer or whatever. And it visually, it's like really stunning. but I feel like there wasn't a lot of emotional weight to it because the relationship of Clark and Lois really hadn't been developed much at all in the movie, right? Like I said, they're already together at the beginning of the movie, and they have some arguments here and there, but yeah, that relationship kind of takes a back seat to other stuff in the movie, and you know, that relationship is a huge part of Superman mythology and a big part of what makes a lot of Superman stories work. So, yeah, maybe it was a little underserved in this one.
Yeah, I agree with Henry. You know, I said after the movie, like, it's so weird that, I think they said they've only been dating for like 3 or 4 months, and then out of nowhere, Superman says that he loves her, and then she
That's
doesn't
right.
know what to say. And then, like, I think it's Mr. Terrific who asks them about their relationship status. He's like, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know." And then later on by the end of the movie, yeah, she says it back that I love you. And it just feels a little sloppy, like Henry said, no real emotional development. Yeah, it just feels odd. But what we'll say about Lois Lane, the character, is that I'm so glad that they, didn't really make her like the damsel in distress uh character. Like, it wasn't like Lex Luthor kidnaps her and then Superman has to go and find her. She's actually the one that goes out and tries to rescue Superman. So I appreciate that. She uses her smarts to um track him down and save Metropolis. So I don't know, this portrayal of Lois Lane, I was down for it, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I like the slow slide too, but like I do feel what you said, Henry, where it feels like the relationship between Lois and Clark is kind of barely there.
Mhm.
But let's actually get into that. I think the point that you kind of brought up. Um, how do you guys feel that this movie skips a lot of the origin story? I feel like it skips the origin story and then some.
Yeah.
The movie basically starts in like the way the movie starts is with a title crawl, and Superman is already like, of course, he's already be announced himself as Superman. I think they said for 3 years. He's been Superman for 3 years already, and he's already kind of established. And not just that, like he's already at the Daily Planet. He's already dating Lois Lane. He seems to already know Either he knows Lex Luthor already, or Lex Luthor's just kind of been studying his moves over and over for years. And the Justice Gang already knows who he is, and he already intervened um, in the major conflict in the movie, and got his ass beat. The movie starts with him lying in the snow after a fight. So, how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about this movie essentially picking up where it did?
I feel like there's like good and bad to it. Like, good is, yay, we skip another Superman origin story. Like, if you want to watch that, like, go watch a different Superman movie. Like, let's get caught up. No more Spider-Man, no more Batman origin stories, please. But two, I think the what's bad about it is that, like, because these characters already have established relationships, you don't really get to grow with them. You don't really care for them. You don't meet them from day one. You meet them at day 20, and they're already like, yeah, like 20 days ahead of you. So it's hard to care for them when you're you don't really know them. So there's that. And then, like, I guess this is maybe like a question for a larger discussion, but I had asked Henry like before, like, does this movie work if you don't if you haven't seen Superman, if you don't know his origin story? Like, can you like this movie as just a common moviegoer. Um, I feel like you can. It's just really hard to like catch up and understand everything that's going on, you know? But that's just my take. Henry?
Yeah, well said, Porfirio. I 100% agree with what you mentioned, how by having this movie not be an origin story, you lose a lot of character development, a lot of story development that, you know, is sort of important in ways. I just mentioned the Clark and Lois relationship. That kind of suffers because it's not an origin story. The fact that they're already together at the beginning. Now, that said, it is pretty freaking cool that it just throws you right into the middle of things. Like at the beginning of the film, it's almost like this big declaration. This is not an origin movie, right? It's telling you like just don't get it twisted. This is not an origin, and it just throws you into it. And it's kind of exciting. It has this great pace to it. The whole movie moves. It just moves, yeah. So the pacing is great, and maybe above all, it's different, right? Everything about this Superman is different than past portrayals, right? Um, this is another thing we probably want to get into later, but the David Corenswet and Henry Cavill comparisons, we've already touched upon it, but this is very much the anti-Henry Cavill Superman, yeah? The anti-Zack Snyder Superman. It's not grim and serious, right? It's comedic and light, and there is no origin at all. And just everything about this movie is so different. And, you know, right now, superhero fatigue is a thing, and a lot of people are talking about it and debating it. So I think it's a good move to try to inject some new life by telling a different story, going a different way. So yeah, there are some drawbacks to having this one not be an origin story, but ultimately I think it's pretty refreshing, and it's a positive thing that it isn't.
Yeah. Um, See, I definitely agree. I think as somebody who's already seen so much Superman media, to see it like this, where it's like, well, okay, it's just gonna go, and we're just gonna go right into the adventure. Superman's got X, Y, and Z already. You already know what's up. Oh, Lois Lane, they're already together. We're gonna fast track this. You already know who these characters are and what their relationship are. Um, and I think as a superhero movie in 2025, this works. I I think this movie would feel really jarring if it were released at the time of, say, Man of Steel 12, 13 years ago, and I don't think it would have worked. But I think because in like this like post Endgame world where we've seen these massive crossovers, we've seen all these characters, and we've seen like dozens of superhero movies like come out and like take hold of like American pop culture,
Hmm.
like they can do something like this, and this fits, and we're like, and I, I like what you said, Henry, where it does feel like very fresh
Yeah.
in that regard because it just throws you in. It felt like, oh, it's like Justice League Unlimited. I know that, but would you show this movie to a kid who's very unfamiliar, who may have never seen a Superman movie, might say tangentially know about the character, but isn't versed on comic book knowledge and lore and what the worlds are like we are? Like, would this work for a newcomer?
Hmm. I think you kind of do need to know the basic backstory at least. Yeah, Porfirio is kind of alluding to this, but I do feel like you kind of need to know a little something because, like I was saying, This one does not give you any kind of origin at all. You kind of have to know the basics here.
Hmm. Yeah, like I think this more so than like anything else. Like there's definitely
Hmm.
several Marvel movies I feel like you could jump in on the middle on and be like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I'd say
Mhm.
more so than this movie. But well, let's see. Did you guys feel that the movie was a little too may have been overstuffed a bit? Like this
Yes.
movie just kind of goes, yeah. Well, why don't you talk about that, Porfirio? How did you?
I mean, I think like what we've been saying, like there was just it's just since this was already like an established like environment, it just felt like there was a lot going on. There was a lot of villains, there was a lot of superheroes, um, and I just yeah, it just felt like there was so much going on, and it was like, okay, this Justice Gang is cool with Superman. Are they? Are they not? Where? Oh, they're at the Hall of Justice. Lois Lane knows where they are. Like it's. I just feel like since there were so many characters, so many villains that it just you lost like character development and understanding, caring for them. So that was my thing.
Okay, yeah. How did you feel, Henry? Did you think it was too much in this movie?
Yeah, that's a good question. Didn't really pop up in my head, but now that I think about it, I don't think it was too much. Yeah, like maybe it's James Gunn. Maybe he just has a knack for like being able to juggle a lot of characters. His movies tend to have a lot of characters in them, right? So uh were some of the characters a little underdeveloped? Yeah, for sure. But I think it's a bit forgivable by the fact that it's just a really entertaining movie. It's funny, it's has great action scenes and the core characters, well, I mean the core character really Superman is quite developed and you really get to know him and that story is really fleshed out. So yeah, I didn't really have a problem with all the things that were happening. Admittedly, there is a lot going on here, but I didn't have a huge problem with it.
Hmm. Let's see. And then all right. Well, here's another question for you guys. Switching topics a bit. Um, let's see, because this movie online has gotten a bit of controversy to it, and I think you guys already know like what I'm kind of getting at. Um, movie appeared on like Fox News. Is is Superman pro immigrant? Is this movie too woke?
Super
Yada
woke.
yada yada. Um, but I have a question for you. Based on kind of what you've seen in this movie, is this movie political? Does this have a political take? Does it have a political stance? Or is it just uh a bunch of fluff? Um Fluff, I guess I don't mean that in a bad way, but is this movie like more apolitical but may have a few things, or does this movie kind of like take a stance on anything? What do you guys think? Why don't you start, Porfiria?
I'm trying like there's like so many scenes that are coming to my head about like whether or not this is political. One, it's not woke. Let's just throw that out there. Superman is an immigrant. He's a refugee that came from a destroying Krypton and landed on Earth and grew up with both Earth and Kryptonian culture. That's that's Superman since day one. Nothing's changed
Right,
about that story.
right.
But two, like I feel like it does talk about a little bit about like political themes. You know, we had mentioned like Superman trying to stop a war, and then Lois Lane interviewing Superman, whether or not he has an responsibility to throw himself in global affairs, you know, as a high power individual. Um, So there's that angle, and then again, there's like Lex Luthor wanting to get rid of Superman because he's an immigrant, and Superman saying like, "Oh, I belong here," but it's not the focus point of the movie. It touches on it, but it's not the focus point. It's just mainly about like Lex Luthor wanting to destroy Superman by opening up a dark hole and Superman fighting back. It's very much comic booky, good guy versus bad guy. And there is like little political themes that touch upon, but it's not the main focus point. I feel like Captain America Civil War is more political than this. Black Panther was more political than this, but I don't think this is a per se political movie.
Hmm. Oh, what do you think, Henry? Do you think this movie was political?
Yeah, I caught wind of some of that media before watching the movie about the movie being super woke, etc. And I was almost shocked how non-political the movie was based on that prior knowledge, right? Um, yes, the movie does lightly touch upon certain issues, like Porfirio was saying, but it is very fluffy softball and like uh you could actually interpret things a certain way and you could interpret other things a different way, and it's that subtle. Like you could view this movie as completely um not touching upon that stuff. It's just not explicit with that at all. So yeah, in my mind, it is not a political movie in any way, really.
So is this woke to you, Christian?
Uh, is it super woke? No, I don't think so. I think there are some mainstays about the Superman character that you see here that probably can be interpreted as more political now than maybe they would have had um 15 years ago or going back further. Um I think like we're saying with Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor's kind of the same as Lex Luthor's always been, but I think the idea of a billionaire who um who acts the way he does feels more like a much more political way now. Now that we have a people like Elon Musk like in the news in the headlines, as well as I think the idea of like there's like little things in this movie that feel like they kind of almost say something political, or they like hint, oh, by the way, this is something that might be going on now, but it could also it's kind of like you said, Henry, like they just kind of like it's so subtle that you could very easily interpret this movie as apolitical.
Mhm.
um and it's probably been the things that Superman has dealt with before, the idea of, oh, stopping this war, um like Lex Luthor and things like that. And like Superman is at odds with the American government has definitely been a story before. And so um but I feel like there's enough little like kind of bits in there that you're like, okay, maybe this does have a bit of a political identity. The monkeys could easily be bots, online meant to influence public opinion. The twist of the movie is is that Lex Luthor, a billionaire, is sending money to foreign governments in order to fund major wars,
Hmm.
so he can take over parts of the world. Um, let's see. Um, I'm kind of blanking on it, but there's also kind of so much stuffed in this movie that it's kind of almost blink if you miss it, because the movie's kind of always on to the next thing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
The next thing, the next fight, the next character introduction, that it doesn't really like ruminate on any of these.
Yeah.
But Superman as well has also been, I think, a progressive character over the years. Uh, he fought the Klan. He is an immigrant who is now fights for truth, justice, and the American way. That's kind of been a tagline of Superman
They
for
changed.
decades. Yep, and he
They
is an immigrant who wasn't born here. So, but I wouldn't say this like you said, Porfirio. It's like movies like Black Panther, Civil War, Winter Soldier, all that definitely take more of a stance than I would say this one does, a hardline stance. But that doesn't stop it from being talked about online. So, well, all right. Well, do you guys have anything else you want to shout out about this movie? Anything you liked or maybe didn't like that we haven't talked about yet?
I have a big shout out, and I'm almost shocked it hasn't come up yet. But Krypto the Super Dog,
Oh,
to me,
Krypto.
Yeah.
maybe the best character in the whole fucking movie. I love Krypto in this one. Krypto has superpowers, but acts very much like a real dog. And I myself and am a dog owner, and I've just been a dog owner for like a year or so. So I've been getting to know, that dog life. I've been like a long time, really lifelong cat person. So I'm getting to know this other side of things. And seeing Krypto in this movie reminds me of my own dog a lot. Like there's a scene where Krypto like bites Superman's boots. I was like, oh my God, this is for real, man. Because like anytime I leave my house, my dog Cammy like chases me and bites my shoes. I was like, this is for real. This is real shit right here. And like I love all the animal stuff in this movie. James Gunn's previous movie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, is sort of famous for being the anti-animal cruelty movie. It's like PETA approved and everything. And if you thought that was like a one-off thing, you would be wrong because Superman has a lot of animal love in it. And to me, it's a huge positive. I'm a big animal lover. And oh, there's so much love for animals in this movie. I love it. It's not just Krypto. Krypto is this great character and like a great representation for pets. But there's a scene where Metropolis is being evacuated, and you see the people of Metropolis like taking their time and saving their pets, right? You see a woman with her turtle and someone with their cat. And there's this really cool scene where Superman and the Justice Gang are fighting a giant kaiju, which is like crazy, awesome scene. But in that scene, Superman is like, he cares about the kaiju's well-being. Like the Justice Gang just wants to kill the kaiju, and they actually do kill it. But Superman does not want to kill the kaiju. He wants to like take it to a zoo or something. So like kind of like a hidden anti-cruelty thing there, but it's there. And in that scene, he saves a little squirrel too. So like there's so much cool animal stuff in this movie. And I definitely didn't want to gloss over that. So let it be known, this animal lovers will love this aspect of the Superman movie.
Hey, that's a good shout out. Yeah. I also loved the addition of Crypto. And I think you shared an article, Porfirio, that after seeing this movie, a lot of people went out and adopted dogs.
Yeah,
Dog
it's
adoptions
cool.
have been up because of this movie.
Oh, I should note too that the fact that Crypto feels like a real dog is no coincidence because Crypto is based on James Gunn's real dog, Ozu.
Mhm, mhm.
And that dog went through the whole motion capture process, and the behaviors of James Gunn's dog very much reflect Crypto's behaviors in this movie.
Hey, that is a cool shout out. All right. Well, you guys got anything else? You want to bring up any other shout outs? Likes, dislikes, thoughts?
So I really want to hear your guys' thoughts. I don't know if I was annoyed with this character or not, but Lex Luthor's girlfriend, I just felt like James Gunn just wrote her to be such an airhead, and it was so annoying. But like you find out that she's actually maybe pretty smart by, taking selfies with all the information in the background, So at the end of the day, she's the hero. But I don't know, the way that she was written was just so annoying the whole time. Like, I don't know, is that just me or?
I don't think it's
Oh,
just you. I had some issues with this character too. I found her pretty annoying, and I think I mentioned to you guys before, but I didn't really understand why Lex wanted her around. Like, apparently she was his girlfriend, but like all he did was yell at her, and he didn't really seem to like her much at all, right? So I didn't really understand like why she was there in the first place. And the issues you had, Porfirio, I had similar issues where she just seemed to be this like, I don't know, vapid influencer type, So yeah, I had some issues there.
mhm, definitely agree. And on top of that, like, it's like the movie kind of hinges on like a love triangle
Mhm.
between Lex, this girl, and
Jimmy.
Jimmy
Jimmy
Olsen,
Olsen, yeah,
like
huh?
of all things, like it's just like out of nowhere, It's like, oh, we'll be together, Jimmy, and it's like you're thinking, like, how do you know both Lex and Jimmy? And the movie doesn't really like explain any of it either.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
movie just like, this is what it is. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna keep going. That's the thing.
And it's
They,
a major plot point in the movie, right? Like
yeah,
basically
Mhm.
it is essential that relationship, the Jimmy Eve relationship is essential for the discovery of Lex's master plan, basically, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, kind of a head scratcher there.
yeah. And it's like it's so quick. It just keeps
Yeah.
going, and it's kind of like played for laughs, but it does become this major part of the movie.
Mhm.
This major plot point. So yeah, uh, I'm with you guys. I don't really care as much for her.
Mhm. Okay, I have another question to ask. So, James Gunn, in his own James Gunn style, decided to create a playlist for each Superman character, you know? It's pretty dope. I enjoyed the playlist. But I was listening to the Clark Kent playlist, and he has a lot of Taylor Swift. So, my question, Henry, is is Clark Kent a Swiftie?
Yeah, I don't know about this because you're saying that there's Taylor Swift on James Gunn's Superman playlist.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recall hearing anything from Taylor Swift in the movie.
Mm-mm.
And there certainly isn't any reference to like Clark being a Taylor Swift fan, right? So I didn't pick up on that. I don't think necessarily he is a Swiftie, no.
Yeah, in fact, he says he's like into punk rock in the movie.
Right.
Maybe secretly, because like I'm looking at the playlist now. The fake band it's called the Crab Joys.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, the Mighty Crab Joys, which I think is supposed to almost be like a riff of like Blink 182. You
Seems like
know,
it. Yeah.
they were like the pop punk kind of band that he's like, no, they're punk. They're not punk rock. And that's like a big joke in the middle of the movie. So maybe, who knows? Maybe if he really likes pop punk, he just he's kind of geared more towards pop, but doesn't want to say. So maybe, so who knows? Maybe I could see him listening to Taylor Swift. and not telling Lois Lane,
I feel
who
like
does seem to be like a big, like punk
I,
rocker.
I feel like secretly, like with this James Gunn Superman, I definitely see him being a Swiftie. Like he like plays Taylor Swift while he's cleaning his apartment, and then Lois Lane like walks in, and is like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "It's Taylor Swift. Everybody loves Taylor Swift." I could totally see that.
I could
And
see
switch.
that too.
He's like
It's
he
it's
switches it
possible.
to the Clash
Yeah.
before she comes
Right.
in. He's like, no, 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 no. I was listening to punk rock. I'm punk rock Superman. So, Um, and then I'm listening, and then yeah, I'm looking through the playlist now. Of course, Lex Luthor. The top one is called "Fame" by David Bowie.
Maybe on Lex Luthor's
That
playlist.
one has
Mm.
"Fame" by David Bowie, "Controversy" by Prince, "Everything in Its Right Place" by Radiohead, and "Death on Two Legs" by Queen, which makes sense. Like, James Gunn is very musical. How did you guys feel about the music in this movie? Say, like compared to say Guardian, the
I
Suicide.
mean, I feel like the only real scene I remember music was that Mr. Terrific scene. I don't remember the music anywhere else in any part of the movie. But that's just me.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
kind of with you. Yeah. Don't
So yeah,
remember songs so much.
James Gunn dropped the ball here. He did a better job
Yeah.
making the Spotify playlist.
That's like what he's known for is like
Hmm.
injecting the songs into his movie.
Hmm.
Hey,
So yeah,
speaking of music, kind of want to get your guys' take on this. So, one thing I did notice with the music is that they did play the original John
Hmm.
Williams
Hmm.
Superman theme throughout the movie. It's like a little different than we've heard previously, but it's definitely that Superman theme. And it's kind of unique. I feel like with Superman, that original score has followed the character throughout the decades, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I was just thinking of like the Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like they
Hmm.
didn't use the original Danny Elfman score from the Sam Raimi movies, right?
Yeah.
Then
Hmm.
Michael Giacchino came up with a new Spider-Man theme, right?
Hmm.
But here it's that same theme we've heard throughout. And it wasn't just from the Christopher Reeve movies. We've heard it like in other versions of Superman, right? It's just there always. So I don't know how I feel about that really. I love that theme, but part of me is kind of like, well, maybe we should move on from it. I don't know. What are your guys' feeling on that?
'cause, yeah, they played it a lot in the movie.
Yeah.
Anytime there's a big moment, you would hear that theme come in.
Hmm.
So, it's so iconic that like you're so like attached to Superman, almost like even if you haven't seen the movie, you still probably know the theme and
Yeah.
can
Hmm.
trace it to that movie. So, but yeah, like they haven't really done that, say for Batman. Like like his movies seem to have new themes, so I
Yeah.
think it would have
Yeah.
been nice to have something new too, as well, rather than just a remix of the old one.
I thought it was dope. I enjoyed it.
Mhm. That's fair. It is like an iconic theme.
For
Hmm.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, so um, I kind of touched on this earlier, but you know, there is a scene where yeah, Lois interviews Superman about interfering in human affairs, global affairs. Like, what, yeah, like, is Superman in the right or wrong, about putting himself and like trying to stop a war. I feel like this is like a throwback to our podcast, the last one we did about the questions and our hot takes. Um, yeah, like what do you think, Christian?
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say, because like throughout the movie, you kind of see that like, oh well, this guy is in cahoots with Lex Luthor. He's shown to be this very bad guy, and when you see the folks of the other nation that he's invading, they're just kind of just regular people, and they really don't have much, sticks and stones versus this like heavy artillery. And so, like through the movie, it shows that oh yeah, Superman definitely is right for like intervening and trying to stop this war. Um, but should Superman do that? Is Superman right for doing that
Mm-hmm.
without all that other information?
Mm-hmm.
I would say no. I would say that um, that kind of puts him in. When you think of like stuff like Watchmen and The Boys, the idea of I think superheroes acting as essentially like a world police and like
Mm-hmm.
acting as who could be like Lois asked him like, "Oh, well, are you an agent of the American government? Like,
Mm-hmm.
are you acting on behalf of them?" Even though he says, "No, I'm just acting on behalf of myself." It feels like he might be intervening in something that's more complicated, and like sticking in his nose into somewhere like a place that he shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Even
It's
though, like in the context of the movie, it's like, yeah, I agree with Superman.
mm-hmm.
Of course, he did the right thing. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
What about you, Henry?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I'm with you guys. Superman didn't really go about all that in the right way. He's got to go through the proper channels. He can't just go rogue like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Lois had some really good points in that conversation. But it did make me think, like, it's kind of a cool aspect of the movie because why does Superman matter? Why do we care about Superman? Superman's cool because he's this really powerful person, but he is still a good person. Yeah, like what has inevitably happened to powerful people is they become corrupt and they become self-serving, and there are too many examples of this in real life, and even in pop culture now. Characters like Homelander, etc. Like uh, when someone has superpowers, they become super evil. That's just how it goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's why Superman's so inspirational. Like, here's a guy who has those powers, but he's such a good person that you know, he uses his powers for good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even then, it's like, well, you could have the best intentions, you could have this great power, but you could still do things the wrong way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a cool Superman storyline because on surface level, Superman stories can seem really simple and
Mm-hmm.
like unnecessary. Like, okay, this guy's super powerful and he's always good, he's always doing the right thing. Who cares, really? It's just basic, right? But where we do see some complexity is that with all this power and all this great intention, he could still fuck up, and that's what he did here. Like he totally approached that situation in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I for a while, like after you know my initial run as a young child loving Superman, I went through a long stretch where I was like just not that interested in Superman because I
Mhm.
did have that perspective. Like,
Mhm.
well, Superman, like, who cares? Like, I can,
Yeah.
number one, I can't relate to the super powered individual, but number
Mhm.
two, like the stories seem really boring and like it
Mhm.
just comes down to does the bad guy have kryptonite or not, and like that's the
Yeah.
main struggle. But no, that there are a lot of like nuances here to consider. So like this is a good one. I think this is a good example of that.
Yeah, I think, Superman is a figure that needs to be like checked, he has to go to the proper channels, Christian, you said like Superman does what he does because he believes he's doing the right thing. But like what if it isn't, Like what if, I don't know, like on a smaller scale, like there's like a protest going on or something and he tries to de-escalate the situation, but protesters like turn on him and start like throwing shit at him. Like he's gonna get angry and like go all out Superman on these people, then like he's saying that like, oh, I tried to de-escalate things, but they got violent and I was just defending myself, protecting others. Then it's like who does Superman um like turn to be like you this was good, this was bad. No. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, and I think it like kind of comes back to like what we were talking about. I think with like the Sokovia Accords, Team Iron
Hmm.
Man, Team Cap.
Hmm.
Um, like should the superheroes one kind of be kept in check?
Hmm.
And I think this is another kind of shade of that conversation as well. Like what you want Superman, but you don't want Homelander
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
as like the two opposites.
Hmm.
So yeah, good question. But yeah, definitely a lot to think about. All right. Well, anything else, or do you guys want to get to scoring this?
I had
Oh,
one other thought. Uh,
yeah.
so maybe this might be better answered after we watch Fantastic Four. But right now, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but we're in a place where superhero fatigue is the thing, right? And I know this movie, to me at least, I'm sure I'm not alone, was a bit of a litmus test for where are we at with superhero movies, yeah?
Hmm.
I know if this film was a big bust at the box office, some could argue it'd be like the death knell of the superhero movie, or if it was a huge hit, then it'd be this grand declaration that it's like it's not over yet, it's still going, right?
Hmm.
But I don't know, like I've been hearing a lot of conflicting information. I know you guys have too about the box office. Like it seems like it depends on who you ask. You can get a different answer about how well this
Hmm.
movie is doing at the box office. Like I think the consensus is like it's decent. Like it did really well domestically, but internationally it's a bit of a disappointment.
Hmm.
But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts about the state of superhero movies now that Superman has come out?
I feel like definitely superhero fatigue is so a real thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like there is a way to like get people still caring about this genre. Like this is, the newest Superman movie by James Gunn, but it's totally different than Man of Steel by Zack Snyder. Different, same
Yeah.
character, but different story. It's just the way how you tell the story that should like get people caring about like the superhero genre. Different ways of telling it. Like I know you guys weren't the biggest fan, but like Agatha, like that's totally different. It added a little bit of music, a little bit of magic in it, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. So I just feel like it's it's just do be smarter of telling the superhero stories. Make us care about the characters. It's not always just about like CGI big battle scenes. It's like make a good villain, make a good hero, and awesome music wouldn't hurt, but it's all about that.
Hmm. Like, I think overall this movie is doing well at the box office. I think, like you said, there's a lot of conflicting information. I don't think we'll know until like maybe a month from now how good it really is doing financially.
Yeah.
But like this movie definitely like the the DC universe I think that's presented here definitely feels much different I think to the DC universe that we saw in Man of Steel and the Snyderverse. I think as well as Marvel, like you could definitely tell like they like one is of course that you're established and two they kind of throw like the stuff they throw at it is much more like we're just going to throw a kaiju fight in the middle of the movie and not explain anything about it. Lex Luthor just
Yeah.
unleashes this, like, oh, by the way, Lex Luthor's got a pocket dimension as well, and it leads to this really big fight. Like the universe here is so it's definitely much further removed from our world than like the MCU was. Like this world is just not grounded at all. I don't want to say it all, but it very much doesn't feel grounded. It feels so much more comic booky, and it almost reminded me of like I would say like Invincible or My Hero Academia
Mm, hmm
Mm.
with the way that they approach superhero and supervillain fights. Like
hmm
you can tell people just kind of like gather around these fights because they just it this seems like a normal thing to
hmm
this world. Like, oh, a big kaiju's attacking. All right, well let's gather around and watch. This is Tuesday. That's kind of like the vibe that this movie's going for. It feels like okay, anything can happen at any point in time, and like we're trying to go bigger and better. Like the better, of course, being subjective, but they're trying to like really kick up the fantasy up a notch.
hmm
Um, and so I think that's kind of what they're trying. That's the big statement on what this new DC universe is going to be. Is that's really I think what they're going to go for. Um, and so in a way, it's almost like I feel like that's going to feel a bit like the next big step, the future of these movies, and that movies, I think, say something more like Man of Steel and Blue Beetle, and a more character driven origin story, um, might be that could be a bit grounded, but also have some of the superpowers in there. Might be a thing of the past now, and I wonder if that's where we're gonna be. That's probably where Fantastic Four is also gonna be headed, with the way they're kinda going with this retro futuristic world that is
hmm
very different from our own. Um, I wonder if that's gonna be more of the direction moving forward as well.
hmm
So, but who knows? We'll see. Of course, anything could happen, and if a movie is good, it's good no matter what type of vibe or universe it could be going for. But that was kinda my take, after watching this
Right on.
on where I think the superhero movies are headed, this is kind of the way that they're going to try to combat the superhero fatigue that we've been talking about, ratchet up the fantasy.
Cool. Yeah, I had some thoughts too, but I think I can include it in my rating.
Mhm.
Okay.
Alright, well, why don't we get to ratings? I have a little follow-up question after the rating, but,
Okay.
All
why
right.
don't we get to it? Since you had something you wanted to mention, Henry, why don't you go first? How did you
Sure.
feel about Superman? Out of 5, what would you give it?
Out of 5. All right. Superman. So, yeah, I definitely went into this thinking, okay, the stakes are pretty high here because it is a big State of the Union kind of thing. Where are we at with this whole superhero movie thing? And box office wise, it seems like okay. probably we can declare this just about good enough to declare superhero movies are still alive, but quality wise, most definitely, this is a good one, folks. I really enjoyed Superman. It is an entertaining movie, very entertaining. Great action scenes, lots of good comedy moments. It's just a lot of fun. It's a fun time at the movies. Yeah, don't listen to the super woke comments. It's very light. It's actually it actually steers clear from a lot of controversy, and it just sort of um, goes for fun. Like, uh, and the decisions that were made for this movie were mainly done for the sake of fun and entertainment more than anything, I think. And it does work. It is a very James Gunn movie. James Gunn is known for delivering extremely entertaining movies. He's done it again here. Um, this was a tough task, taking a very, very well-known character, a beloved character, and I think he can be praised for simply for not fucking it up. He did all right here. He did all right. Um, one other note about the whole like superhero fatigue thing. Um, like we're yes, it's not the end, but I have like slight caveat on that, and I'll say that it's not how it used to be, right? But
Mm,
before, like I would say after Avengers 1, it was like, oh my God, the sky is the limit. Like, what is next, right? Um, and you couldn't wait to hear about like the whole slate of new superhero movies, right? Now it like yeah, the three of us, we love these movies, and even we are like, okay, like pump the brakes a little bit here, right? And I think it does need to be like uh let's take it one at a time kind of thing, right? Let's like hear about like the next releases for the next 5 years or something. Let's just go one at a time. We don't have to know like this whole cinematic universe right away, and let's just take one thing at a time. Uh, and on that note, just watching this movie and considering it as a standalone film, not thinking about like, okay, where's the Justice Gang gonna show up next? Like, oh, Supergirl's in this. Like, oh, I can't wait to see her stuff. Like let's just consider it one at a time. And just looking at this movie individually, had a lot of fun with it. Not a perfect movie. I think the fun factor was like to the detriment of a few things, right? We had to give up some character development, and I think I glossed over a lot of things, and um it made for kind of what you were saying, Christian, like a very comic booky feel, right? Not really grounded, and yeah, ultimately simply a fun ride, an entertaining night at the movies for sure. I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5 for Superman.
All right. All right, Porfirio, how did you feel about Superman out of 5?
let me just say, like, I'm surprised that Henry got said a 4 out of 5. And also, let me just say, Henry, I disagree. I want more movies, more than let's not take it slow. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay, all right. Okay, fair enough.
Um, but I really enjoyed this movie. I think I gave too much. I expected way too much from this movie, I think. There was we talked about that controversy about like being super woke, about being about immigrant rights, and I kind of thought it was going to be about that, which like I said, it was, but it wasn't. It was like what we've been saying. It's a comic book movie. It's about good guys versus bad guys. It's about Superman doing what he does, and so it's a fun movie. It's a really fun movie. I was just a little let down that it wasn't deep, you know, which is okay. That's so okay. This is the start to the new DC universe. Um, and I think it's a really great start. James Gunn really killed it. He knocked it out of the park, and I'm excited for Supergirl. I'm excited for what he's gonna do for the rest of the DC universe. Um, so I enjoyed it a lot. It definitely had its flaws, and so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
Hey, I'm also feeling a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5s all around.
Yay.
I loved this movie. It does have its very noticeable flaws, as we mentioned before. They're just being too overstuffed and really not getting into any one thing too deeply. But like like you said, Henry, the fun factor is just so high that it's hard not to just have a great time while you're watching this, and
Hmm.
like especially in a big theater. This movie is just a ride, and there's just a lot of charm. I think there's a lot of like I enjoyed the acting a lot in the characters, and I think that also kind of holds up a lot of it. I really like this take on Superman and Lois Lane, and Mr. Terrific was this like really cool breakout character. And I think this sets a really good like set for the universe. I'm excited to see where they go next with it. It feels very, very fresh, and it feels very, very comic booky, and it's like very unabashedly shit. So I think even though that I would say they skip a little too much for a movie, it almost feels like when you kind of pick up your a comic for the first time, and you're already in the middle of a story,
Hmm.
or like in the middle, they'll like talk about things that have already happened in previous issues or different comic book issues. In that way, it feels like reading a comic book as well. Um, you know, whether or not that's a positive or a negative of reading comic books, up to you, but it does capture that feeling. So, 4 out of 5. I'm very excited to see what comes next. And all right,
Nice,
since
nice.
we're all very high on this movie, just I guess a quick follow up on this.
Hmm.
Um, Based on the Superman movies you've seen versus this one, where would you say this ranks? Is this your favorite Superman movie?
Well, like I was
Um,
saying earlier, I've only seen Man of Steel, so so I only have two Supermans to choose from. So um, I'll let Henry go first.
Oh, well, maybe we should ask ourselves what constitutes a Superman movie because it sounds like Porfirio's considering it's got to be a solo Superman movie. We're not counting, I don't know, BVS, Justice League, etc. Is that how we're doing it?
I don't know.
And
I'll say,
animated stuff? I don't
yeah,
know.
it's hard to say because there's definitely a lot of Superman media out there, especially Superman with the Justice League.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll say live action. I guess if you really want to count Justice League, BVS, Zack Snyder's Justice League, you can as well.
I mean, again, I've only seen Henry, so Henry Cavill. So,
Yeah. Do you like him better than Henry?
mm, hmm, mm. No, I think I think the Superman maybe. I don't know. Henry's gonna have a special place in my heart because he was my first Superman.
Mhm.
But I mean, the movies weren't that good, so
Well, you really like the Snyder cut a lot, right?
I did like the Snyder Cut a lot. I mean, I don't know. If I'm just seeing the character, I will say this one I like a little bit more, but slightly, like this much, this much.
Got it. Yeah, let's see. That's a good question. Where does this stand in terms of Superman movie portrayals? So, I mean, the gold standard really is the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve. Not only is that, I think, the best ever Superman movie, the best ever Superman portrayal, but one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. So I'll say that this one is definitely up there. It's not as good as that one, but it's up there. I think it's better than Man of Steel, easily. I think it's better than Superman Returns, easily. It's better than a couple of the later Christopher Reeve Superman movies, easily, namely Superman 3 and 4. And then now, where I might have a debate is this movie better than Superman 2? That is a very beloved movie to me. I think when I was younger, I actually liked Superman 2 more than Superman 1 because it had like Superman versus General Zod, right? And as a kid, that was exciting. Like Superman 1 was great, but it was like, oh, it was like Superman but versus a bunch of like non-powered villains. Right now, he's actually got a challenge. Um, Seeing Superman 2 subsequently, and not that long ago, I think I watched it last year. Um, Seeing Superman 2 recently, I think I feel like it's not as good as it was in my memory. Um, but yeah, again, it is so beloved to me, and like it holds a special place in my heart. I might go with like a tie between like Superman 2 and this David Corenswet Superman movie as being my second favorite Superman movie of all time.
Hmm. Yeah, like um, it can be a little hard to to gauge this versus the Christopher Reeve ones. You know, the Christopher Reeve ones, it's so iconic.
Hmm.
Superman is such a the 1970s version, I think is like an all-time Hollywood classic, you know.
Yeah.
But it's so, you know, of course it's 50 years old. It's very dated in some respects, and I think like I never liked the I guess the spoiler for that movie is just that the movie kind of ends with Superman going back in time,
Yes.
and I never liked that. Even as a kid, I always thought that was weird. Um, and I think that's always like something I think I was hold against the movie. But I think there's so like I would say that's the better movie than this one. Um, but I think in a way it's like I think I would rather rewatch this one because it's more modern, you know. It's more
Mhm.
modern, and I think comic book movies have come so far in the past, like you know, since Iron Man, that this speaks to the more modern sensibilities. It's more enjoyable nowadays. So it's like I want to say like I like this one more, but I'll acknowledge that Superman 1 is better, you know? So in a way, I feel like that's almost the tie, but I feel like personal favorite. This is probably my new favorite as of now.
Nice. Oh, hey, just a quick follow-up on what you mentioned about Superman spinning around the Earth backwards to reverse time. I mean, it is really like the ultimate ridiculous plot point. Um, I remember I went to a panel with Robert Kirkman, the creator of The Walking Dead, and the panel obviously had nothing to do with Superman, but he made it a point to bring up how ridiculous that whole thing was. And like he just he went on this he kind of went on a rant about how stupid that was. So that struck me. The other thought I had regarding that is Kevin Feige of Marvel Studios. Kevin Feige has noted the first Superman movie as being the ultimate superhero movie, and he regards it as like a blueprint for how superhero movies should be made. And it's funny uh, when I hear that because you know the end of that movie has that crazy like reversing time thing, and then what happens in Avengers Endgame? They go back in time, right? It's like a totally fucking ridiculous plot point, and I'm wondering like, oh, is it because Feige loves that Superman movie and he's just like, ah, fuck it, they did it then, let's just do it here too. I don't
We'll
know.
do it now.
Yeah, why not? Just a thought. And one last parting thought on my end. Um, this didn't come up, but I just wanted to call it out. Uh, the moment in this Superman movie, the Corenswet movie, when Superman busts out the heat vision and he spins super fast. Holy shit, that was fucking awesome. He takes out like a whole bunch of bad guys at the same time by spinning with his heat vision. Like whoever thought of that idea is pretty genius, just gotta say.
Yeah, that was an awesome scene.
Yes. Okay. With that, we can wrap up the episode. This is farewell from Christian, Henry, and Porfirio.